Okay, so now we are going to take our exploded view that we just completed and get that as well as some other things into a drawing file. Make sure that you've saved this, you know how you've named it, and where to find it. So next we're going to create a new drawing file. And for us, we're going to choose the Edgewood Drawing title block, hit create. Just like when we created our part files, our drawings of our parts, we need to select base to bring in a base view. This one's going to be slightly different though. I now need to navigate and find my file, and you need to pay attention to what type of file you're looking for in these folders. If it by chance is on part, you'll only see part files. Our exploded view is created as a presentation file, so be sure to choose presentation files. I just saved that example in the previous video as an exploded presentation file. When I select that, I can see it here. I'm going to click Open. Next, before I just drag it in, the orientation needs to be selected. If I go ahead and move my mouse over here to the right, I get a quick preview. For this exploded view, I actually want my isometric view. And I believe it was the ISO top front right, so top right. I can move that over and get an idea if that's the one I wanted. And that looks right. Had I had the top left, you can see the parts, the purple and the green, are overlapping. Be sure to, in your presentation file, make sure that you had the orientation saved and you knew which one it was as well. So I'm going to choose ISO top right and OK. And there it's just been created. I'm going to right click and say OK. Now you notice that it's rather large for my drawing paper. So I can edit the view. You can see this dashed red line. It's kind of faint, especially on the gray background. Here you can see it. With that highlighted, I want to right click and say Edit View. In Edit View, I can change the scale. 1 to 2 will be half the size. If you'd like something other than what's listed, you can manually type in. So somewhere between 1.1 and 1.2 would be like 1 to 1.5, which is not one of the default choices in the dropdown, but I can type in a decimal value and get that scale to appear, like that. I'm going to go ahead and just drop it back down to the 1 to 2 ratio to give myself enough room to work on this paper. Now, in addition to the exploded view, you can also bring in your assembly view. Navigate to the correct file for your assembly. Your assembly was an assembly file, so be sure to choose assembly files when looking. And there you go. Hit open. And for the assembly, let's bring in our isometric as well. And there it's brought in. I'm going to right click and say OK. Now I can select it and drag it with those red dashed lines. So here you have an isometric of the solution. You have an exploded view of the solution. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and make a parts list. To make a parts list, go to the Annotate tab in your ribbon. Then, about 3/4 of the way over, you'll see Parts List. Choose Parts List. Select the document that it'll be looking for all the parts. For us, that'll be our assembly file. You can also find it here by navigating. It's again asking me for what file type. I'll go ahead and use the assembly file that I just brought in. Click Open and OK. Now it's showing me the default size, and I'm going to have to left click to place it. I can resize the columns by moving my mouse until I get these horizontal arrows. And as you can see, I can shrink down a column like description. The item and quantity don't require a whole lot of width, so I'll go ahead and shrink those down. If for some reason my part number here was wrapping and it was there wasn't enough room, then I would make it bigger. I can leave it a little smaller. If you'd like to edit or move your mouse until you see the 4 arrows in the diagonal directions, and then you can click, hold, and drag the entire part box. If you'd like to edit, have that same icon, right click, and say Edit Parts List. Here, you can manually type into the description. So as an example, if you would like to go through and note how many wooden cubes it took to build each part, maybe you could do that under the description. Your green piece was built with 6 parts, so 6 wooden blocks. And just note how many wooden blocks. Okay? You can go through and note each of those, hit apply and OK. And then that'll also appear in your parts list. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through and type those in. Lastly, you can add balloons to point to these objects. Your part list has already numbered all of the parts. It shows you the quantity of each of the part. So for our puzzle cube, we had 5 parts. They're all unique. So each part should only appear once, or we should only have 1 of each part. But as you can see that there's an item column, and Inventor has just decided to number them. Part 1, Part 2, etc. The first piece, the second piece. To make sure that someone can read the parts list and connect the parts that they're reading about with the drawing file, you can use the Balloon tool, which is under Annotate. So go to the Annotate tab in your ribbon, and then go to Balloon. With the balloon, you can now left-click from a part, pull away. You can click again if you'd like to turn. Left-click to lock that, or to make that next turn, and then right-click when you're done, and you've got the balloon with the number where you want it, and say Continue. And you can repeat that process. My green piece was part number 1, and as you can see when I created the ribbon, the balloon, it automatically labeled it number 1. The red piece is part number 2. If I go ahead and make a balloon for that one, you'll see that it automatically has the number 2. Let's jump to the purple piece, which was number 5, and let's make a balloon for that. And there you go. You can see that's labeled number 5. I can also do that in the exploded view. Okay, so you can go through and you can add balloons pointing to your parts in both the assembled solution and the exploded view to make sure the reader of this document can connect your parts list with the parts in the pictures. And that is how to do your drawing file that shows the completed solution as well as the exploded. If you'd like to come down here and edit the name yourself, who drew it, the title, or add the date here, you can go to the document title. I still have balloons chosen, so I'm going to right click and say Escape. I can right click and choose iProperties, and then under Summary, update the author. So I'll make that Mr. Orlando. The title will be Puzzle Cube Solution and Exploded. Apply and close, and that should update. Now that went off a little bit. Here is my Edgewood IED template. If I choose that and right click. Edit definition will allow me to edit this template. And I'm going to go ahead and choose title. You can see the amount of space that was given to the title wasn't very big. I can go ahead and click and drag this and make it longer so that the text doesn't start to wrap so quickly. And then hit Finish Sketch. Save edits. Yes. Notice that that long title now continues to go horizontal and doesn't wrap. Last, I'm going to add the date here, and that wasn't a predetermined field to type in. It's just a blank square in the title box. To add any other text, you can go to the Sketch tool and choose Text. Click, hold, and drag to show where you'd like to add the text, and in this area, type it in. So today's date is 12/8/2015. I'm going to say OK to that message. I can change the font size right here. I can bold, italic, etc. I'm going to stick with the default. Hit OK and Finish Sketch. And now you can see the 12/8/2015 has appeared right there. So there you go. There's a drawing file that shows my exploded view, my assembled solution, a parts list, and has a completed title block.